The sun was setting over the soccer field as Barron Trump jogged onto the grass, stretching his long legs. At 6 feet 7 inches, he was an imposing figure, but today he wasn't the former president's son. He was just another teenage player trying to prove himself. The tryouts for an elite soccer academy in Florida were intense. Boys from all over the state had gathered, each eager to make the cut. Barron was no different. Soccer had always been his passion, and despite the media's focus on his last name, he wanted to succeed on his own merit. As he practiced passing drills, he overheard a conversation between two assistant coaches and the head coach, a grizzled man with a thick European accent. "Trump's kid, huh?" the head coach said with a smirk. "Bet he thinks he can buy his way onto the team." The assistants chuckled. Barron clenched his jaw but kept his focus on the ball. He had heard it all before, accusations that he was just another rich kid, that he had no real talent. He could have spoken up, but instead he decided to let his game do the talking. Drills turned into scrimmages. Barron knew he had to be flawless. He played aggressively, his footwork precise, his passes sharp. But no matter how well he performed, the coach barely acknowledged him. At one point, after Barron delivered a perfect assist to a teammate, the coach shouted, "Lucky pass! Try doing that twice." A few players laughed, but Barron didn't let it shake him. Instead, he ran harder, tackled smarter, and controlled the ball with even more precision. Then, during a particularly fast break, he saw his chance. He stole the ball from an opponent, sprinted down the field, and fired a shot past the goalie. The net rippled. Goal! The other players clapped, but the coach remained unimpressed. "Even a broken clock is right twice a day," he muttered. Barron felt a surge of frustration, but he swallowed it. He knew there was only one way to prove his worth. The final scrimmage was the ultimate test. Everyone knew that this was their last chance to prove themselves before the coach made his final decisions. The air was thick with tension, and the sound of cleats scraping against the field echoed through the stadium. Barron stood in the midfield, scanning the field with laser focus. He had been playing well all day, clean passes, precise footwork, quick decisions. But he still felt the weight of doubt hanging over him. The coach hadn't given him so much as a nod of approval. Every other player had received some form of encouragement. But when it came to Barron, the man remained cold, almost as if he was waiting for him to fail. The whistle blew, and the scrimmage began. The opposing team was aggressive, pressing hard and moving quickly. Barron knew he had to step up. He controlled the midfield, intercepting passes and setting up plays. But despite his efforts, his team struggled to gain an advantage. Then, in the final minutes of the game, the opposing team launched a blistering counterattack. Their star striker, a player known for his incredible speed and agility, sprinted toward the goal, leaving defenders behind. The crowd gasped. This was it. If he scored, Barron's team would lose. Without hesitation, Barron took off in a dead sprint. His long strides devoured the distance between him and the striker. He timed his movement perfectly, waiting for the right moment to strike. Just as the striker pulled his leg back to shoot, Barron lunged forward with a sliding tackle, his cleats barely grazing the ball. The ball deflected off course, rolling harmlessly out of bounds. The stadium erupted in cheers, his teammates clapping him on the back. But when he looked toward the sideline, the coach's expression remained unreadable. Had he done enough? The next day, all the players gathered around the coach, their fates hanging in the balance. The man held a clipboard and called out names one by one. Those who made the team stepped forward, while the others stood back in disappointment. Barron remained still, waiting. He had done everything right, played his heart out, and yet he wasn't sure if it was enough. Then finally the coach looked at him. "Trump," he said in a flat voice, "you surprised me. You've got skill, no doubt. But soccer isn't just about talent. It's about heart, teamwork, and knowing how to earn respect." Barron nodded, standing tall. "I understand, coach." The coach smirked slightly. "Do you? Because I don't think a kid who grew up in a golden tower really understands what it means to struggle." A few players shifted awkwardly, sensing the tension. The words hit hard, but Barron refused to let them show on his face. He had learned long ago that reacting with anger never helped. Instead, he extended his hand. "With all due respect, coach," Barron said calmly, "you don't know where I come from, but I do know where I'm going, and I'd like to prove it on this team." There was a moment of silence. The coach studied him carefully as if trying to gauge if his words were genuine. Then slowly, he extended his hand and shook Barron's. "All right, Trump," he muttered. "Let's see what you've got." Barron had made the team, but now the real work began. The following weeks were the toughest of Barron's life. He had faced pressure before, growing up in the spotlight, dealing with media scrutiny, even enduring jokes at his expense, but nothing compared to the challenge ahead. He was determined to prove himself, not just as an athlete, but as a person who refused to be defined by his last name. Every morning, before the sun even rose, Barron would be on the field, running drills by himself. He worked on his footwork, endurance, and precision. He forced himself to practice longer, harder, and with more focus than anyone else on the team. His father always told him, "When they doubt you, outwork them." And that was exactly what he planned to do. At first, no one paid much attention. Some of his teammates still whispered behind his back, assuming he'd give up soon. A few ignored him entirely. Even Coach Reynolds barely acknowledged his presence. But Barron didn't care. He wasn't there for their approval. He was there to be better. Then one fateful day during practice, everything changed. The team's star midfielder, Leo, took a hard fall during a scrimmage. Writhing in pain, he clutched his ankle, signaling he couldn't continue. The coach hesitated for a moment, looking at his bench. Then with reluctance, he pointed at Barron. "Trump, you're in." The words sent a wave of energy through Barron. This was his moment. As soon as he stepped onto the field, everything around him faded. His instincts took over. He played with newfound confidence. His passes were crisp, his movements sharp, his positioning flawless. Even his toughest critics on the team watched in shock. Then, with only minutes left, a perfect cross came flying toward him. Without hesitation, Barron leaped into the air and met the ball with a powerful header. The net rippled as the ball struck the back of the goal. For a second, the field was silent. Then, the eruption came. Cheers, applause, his teammates rushing toward him, patting his back. Even the ones who had doubted him the most. And standing on the sideline, arms crossed, Coach Reynolds simply nodded. A week later, the team faced their toughest rival in a packed stadium. The atmosphere was electric, the tension thick. For Barron, this match wasn't just about winning, it was about proving to himself that he truly belonged. As the team warmed up, Barron felt a presence behind him. He turned to see Coach Reynolds, looking more serious than usual. "You surprised me last week, Trump," the coach admitted. "I was wrong about you." Barron nodded. "I never wanted special treatment, Coach. Just a chance." The game began, and it was brutal. Both teams fought fiercely for possession. Barron played with unshakable determination, weaving through defenders, setting up plays, and taking every opportunity to advance the ball. Then, with only minutes remaining, the score was tied. The crowd held its breath. A pass came straight to Barron. Time seemed to slow as he saw an opening. Without hesitation, he faked a shot, sending the defender in the wrong direction. Then, with a swift strike, he sent the ball soaring toward the goal. The stadium exploded as the ball hit the back of the net. His teammates tackled him in celebration, lifting him onto their shoulders. From the corner of his eye, Barron saw Coach Reynolds watching from the sideline, arms crossed, but this time with a proud smile. After the game, during the team celebration, Barron was approached by someone he never expected, Coach Reynolds. "You didn't just prove yourself as a player," the coach said, extending his hand. "You proved you have something more valuable than talent, character." Barron shook his hand firmly. "Thank you, Coach." And in that moment, he realized success wasn't about proving people wrong. It was about proving to himself that he could rise above the doubts, the whispers, and even the mockery. It was about character, and that was something no one could take away from him.